Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 130 and the season 4 premiere of Super Switch Headz, the premier Nintendo podcast on all of the internet. My name is David Howe.
My name is Matthew Stoner.
My name is Patrick Knisley.
And boy, oh boy, we are joined by a maybe 5-time special guest. Jeremy Franklin joins the show.
Thank you. Great to be back.
How are we doing, Jeremy?
Doing great. Thanks for having me back for maybe the 5th time.
I think it's the 5th
we'll have to
time.
check the records, yeah.
I did the checking, and I'm pretty sure.
Very good. Big number 5. Jeremy, we have you here today because we're going to be talking all about WarioWare Get It Together, the newest entry in the WarioWare franchise. Probably talk a little bit about the franchise as a whole as well. I'm loving this game. Can't wait to talk about it with you guys. That's going to be our main topic. And then we got lots of news as well on this season 4 premiere episode. We got the PlayStation Showcase to talk about, some Sony acquisitions. There's direct rumors circling right now. A lot of people have been talking about Game Boy games. We're going to break down whether or not we think that has any merit, and a lot more. But before we get into the news, how's everybody doing? We took a week off. How was the past 2 weeks for you guys?
I'm going to mention this real quick. I've had a okay couple of weeks or whatever, but like my son had his first soccer game, like his first if any type of organized sports thing, and obviously that's fraught with COVID and all that, but like also now I understand why parents freak out at their kids' sports games. Like it brought up all these weird feelings about my inadequacy in organized sports, and I just was a wreck the whole time. Not the kind of person who's yelling at refs, but I could see how if that's your personality. I was just like sitting there just like terrible.
So wait, when you say your inadequacy at sports, like you felt like just like emasculated by your son being better at soccer than
just
you?
More like I remember all these feelings of being on the side. It just brought back a lot of feelings related to sports that I had when I was a kid. Obviously, I'm into like art and video games, and like I'm not doing a sports podcast, so like I wasn't good, and like do you know what I'm trying to say? Like it just like I wasn't expecting that, and it was a weird thing that happened to me that now I kind of like. Yeah, I think so. He said he did. He scored a goal too.
There you go. There you go.
Oh, okay.
Wait, Patrick, I think we need to spend the next hour breaking this down.
No,
Patrick.
I actually like it was a legit like holy shit. There might be some stuff for me to unpack here. Kind of moment.
Oh,
well, your son should play for Austin FC because Austin FC are dog shit right now.
Yeah, that's what I hear. I keep trying to be like, did we win this game? And everyone's like, no.
No.
Yeah,
but what you're saying makes sense because what if Magnus has questions about soccer? What's the great form? What to do? All these questions about an entirely new sport. I would feel
and I
too.
also realized I did not prepare him at all for it. Like he's like,
yeah, but he seems to be a natural. If he scored a fucking goal,
you gotta go.
Yeah, he's all right. Yeah,
Just
but
kick
like
the ball.
I just
That's all you got to do.
Right. That's what I thought. But then I was like, he was so confused. I was like, oh, I probably could have explained how this works, or we could have watched a soccer game or something. You know what I mean? I was like, okay, so I also feel inadequate for that reason too.
Yeah,
I feel like the first time I did any of that, I scored on the wrong goal. So
yeah. At least he didn't do that.
Right there.
Yeah.
I'll talk about this at the end, but I played Outer Wilds and completed it over the past couple of weeks and went down a rabbit hole of learning about quantum mechanics and quantum entanglement, and then tried to explain it to my partner.
Hell yeah,
didn't do great.
Yeah, for me, Outer Wilds was like a great like foray into orbital mechanics. I very much enjoyed that aspect of that game.
Yeah, the solar system's so good.
You can learn so much more from video games than you can from soccer, Patrick, aren't you?
Yeah, that might be the approach I've been taking. That's
how about you, Jeremy? How you doing?
I'm doing good. Just been pretty much hanging out, gaming, working. We hung out the other night, and I had the pleasure of listening to your audiobook of the first issue of your Zelda comic.
I did force Jeremy to listen to the entire audiobook.
It was
with
a
me sitting next
masterpiece.
to
I
him.
can't wait to listen to the rest of it.
Yeah, I'm so glad to finally have those out. It's been a long time coming, and we've had a really great response from our community who seem to be really enjoying it. So thank you guys for listening to that. That was a delight to make, if not a lot more work than I was expecting it to be.
Yes. Well, like this, can segue us into the shout outs because we've been off for 2 weeks, but an extra week more than usual. But we put out 3 episodes because we had the listener question episode, which was our last regular episode. And then we had 2 special episodes of David's audiobooks. And I will agree with Jeremy. David, this stuff was super amazing. Like I legit would like to gush on you for a minute because you did a great job with the voice acting, the effects,
and the production and all the sound effects and the music cues was really.
And it's just a great idea too. You know, we've been talking about it for so long, but actually like hearing it, I was really amazed by you and your work on this.
Thank you very much. This is definitely selfishly a twofold thing for me. I've always wanted to like do audiobooks. I just think that like that would be a super fun job to like read and produce audiobooks. So I didn't get like paid for it, obviously, but it's like it was practice to do that. So it was fun to do that. And then also Nintendo, Netflix, if you're listening, this is my pitch for the Zelda anime. All right. So check it out. It's ready to go. Now we just need to draw the whole thing.
And it's my turn to gush. It's so good. David, just the audio quality with the additions of the sound effects and the music. You could have just read it without the sound effects and it would have been fucking great. But with like all the music and sound effects, it makes it super fucking great.
Oh, guys.
I do have one question. Does Alan Crawford know about this?
Okay, good fucking question. So I actually reached out to him on Facebook after I published the second one. And I sent him a message being like, hey, this is random. but you remember that book we wrote together in 6th grade?
Alan Crawford's the other author. I made a fully
produced. Yeah, he's the co-author of Zelda Pathways to the Future.
Co-author.
No, he is my ghostwriter. No. But he hasn't. I don't think he's even seen it. I don't know if he like uses Facebook Messenger or anything. I don't know how else to get a hold of him. So I think I'm gonna like try to friend his wife on Facebook because she seems to be more active and be like, "Hey, can you pass this to your husband?" Because it seems like they have kids. I'm like, you should play this for your kid. I think that they would probably get a kick out of it, and it'll be interesting for him to hear. I think, especially probably after not thinking about it for 20 years.
Blast from the past, right there.
Right.
It very much felt like a love letter to Zelda too.
Yeah. I mean, that's what it was. I mean, it was like you just play
among
the
other
games
things.
That's what all fan fiction is, right? It's like you just really love a thing, and that's why it was so fun to work on these things too. I promise we'll get to the fucking show here in a second, but it was so fun to make just because like. It was fun to just like download all these fucking amazing songs from the N64 games and like work with them. You know what I mean? It's like, and I mean, also if you're from Nintendo and you're listening, please don't copyright strike the videos or take them down.
Yeah.
Definitely didn't get permission for any of that, but it's free. I feel like that's fair use. I'm not a lawyer. Patrick kind of used to be, but anyway. Thank you everybody for listening, and thank you guys for saying those nice things about it. It was a lot of fun to do, and maybe who knows? Maybe now that I'm 33 years old, I'll take a stab at writing the next chapter, a sequel to Majora's Mask.
There was tons of people who responded in all different venues, but I'll just rattle them off, and if there's anything you want to mention, David, you can, because almost all of this was in response to the Zelda fanfiction. But we heard from Cena, Jay, KSB OKC, Eelvac, Bucket, Emma, Donatello, Steve Irwin, Karusetta, Vincent Goodwin on Facebook, DCD on Twitter, on YouTube, Eric with a K, Kyle Baker, Rebleep, Matt Hobby, Record to Michael Howe, who I assume there is some relation.
That's my dad. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
And on Instagram, Sprowlex too. Everybody was very pleased with this, David. So
yeah, except for I think who was it on YouTube? I think
Eric with a K, maybe.
Yeah, he was like, "Man, this. I just thought David was gonna be, wearing a bathrobe and smoking a pipe." I was like, "Look, man, that's for a 500." In fact, we gotta come up with another subscriber goal now. I think we should set our sights high. I think we should go with 1,000. We'll come up with something for that. We can get to 1,000 subs.
Yeah, we can. That's a good high goal. I like that.
You got to sit your side time.
We'll write some Xenoblade Chronicles fan fiction.
Matt has Xenoblade Chronicles fan fiction from when he was 13.
From 6th grade with Alan Crawford, whatever his name was.
Rest in peace, Alan. Nice.
We should get going, but I also wanted to mention that David, you and I both have been streaming a lot, and want to shout out everybody who's been stopping by our streams. In particular, we always see Kyle or KSBOKC dropping by.
Yeah.
I know I see Matt, I appreciate you coming by too, and all that kind of stuff. So thanks to everyone who's doing that. If there's anybody,
yeah, we're doing lots more streams. So make sure you join the Discord. That'll be in a link to that will be in the description of this video. We got a whole live streams channel, and people post their streams in there. Come join the Switch Headz community. We're all out here making cool shit.
All right, that's a lot of stuff. So we should move on right to the news and rumors, y'all. So despite being a Nintendo podcast, we're going to open up with some Sony PlayStation news. The sort of the biggest news in the last couple of weeks was this PlayStation showcase that happened on September 9th, where they showed off a ton of stuff, honestly.
Did y'all see anything about the very first trailer that they had of and all the Easter eggs that they had in the first part of the trailer where they were playing chess or whatever? It was
that's the only part I missed. I didn't see the very beginning of it.
I watched that part.
Apparently a bunch of people dug through it afterwards and saw a bunch of stuff. I think there was the Sly Cooper symbol was in there that you could find the Resident Evil 4 Las Plagas symbol, the symbol for the parasite from RE4, which there's all the rumors about the remake and stuff. So there was a lot of stuff hidden in that trailer, I guess, that people uncovered after effect, which I thought was really cool because I just watched that and I was like, this is kind of corny. But
I was definitely confused by it. It was high production value.
It was an interesting way to start the show for sure.
Yeah. But there was a lot of big games shown off. I know some people in the Switch Headz community thought it was kind of boring, but I thought it was impressive and on some level. Yeah, the new God of War was showing off. Y'all jump in if there's anything y'all want to talk about. That Forspoken game looks pretty big. The Knights of the Old Republic remake.
Yeah, that one kind of shocked me. I guess I know the rumors have been floating around for a bit, but I guess I was just kind of there's because it's Aspire, right? Or Aspire, right?
Yeah.
That are making it. And I guess because they just have always made straight ports basically of remakes.
Right.
I was like, wow, they're actually really going to do it. So
yeah,
and then it's going to be a PlayStation exclusive too, which
that I feel was the news, right? Because we basically, I think it wasn't confirmed or anything, but it's we in the rumor mill it had been floating around for a while that Aspire was working on this, right? That kind of got out a while ago. But the fact that it's a PlayStation exclusive is pretty intense, especially because it's that game originally was
started on Xbox. Yeah,
it was Microsoft.
It was
only.
A launch game for, or if not launch, it was one of the tentpole original Xbox games.
So it remains to be seen if that's going to be a timed exclusive or if that is going to be a fully Sony exclusive. But regardless, it's crazy to see. I mean, you're right, Jeremy. It's crazy to see Aspire working on a full remake like this. Doesn't seem like it's a remaster. Or did they call it remaster? They called it remake, right?
They called it a remake.
Yeah. And I think they kind of clarified it after the fact too, as far as I could tell.
And I think they even have some of the original developers brought on to the project as well. Some of the original writers, maybe.
Yeah,
so
that's really cool.
So that's interesting. We'll definitely see how that goes. I mean, all the ports that Aspire has done of the Star Wars games have been bare bones shit, so it's I'm very interested to see what they do when they actually put a lot of time into it. We'll see.
They've done a Jedi Knight, Jedi Academy,
Racer,
Pod Racer,
Star Wars, I suppose, Pod Racer,
Republic Commando.
There were a lot of ports on GOG on PC. I don't know if they did those two because I think Shadows of the Empire ended up getting ported to Steam and stuff too. I can't remember if they did those also.
Yeah,
but it was
they've
around
been doing them
time
for a while. Yeah.
And all the Jedi Knight games have online and stuff too, which I thought was really cool that they brought a lot of that back on PS4 and stuff. That was a blast.
Can we talk Forspoken for a bit?
Sure.
Forspoken, I think visually looks incredible. I think the world looks truly next gen. You know what I mean? And the movement and everything looks really cool. For some reason, the vibe of the game though is really not sitting right with me. I don't know. Maybe it was the dialogue, but it was I don't know. What did you guys feel about that? Am I alone on that?
No, I can just briefly, I can agree. I'm not a big fan of somebody from our real world going into a fantastical world trope.
Yeah.
I prefer a contained fantastical world.
Sure.
If that makes any sense.
Mhm.
It's just
It was a bit kid in King Arthur's court, I guess.
yeah. Exactly. I think something about that is what it made it less interesting to me. I agree with that than if this character was natively there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Maybe it just rubs me weird when people say frickin' and or freaking. They're like, this is so freaking cool. It's like, just say fuck. It's fine.
It looked a little teen like. It liked a Horizon vibe, I guess.
Yeah.
In a sense, like Horizon Zero Dawn, not really like geared towards mature audio, but like a fun, I guess, action adventure game. I thought it looked good visually. But is this the first time they've shown it? I feel like they've teased this game before, but I don't really.
They showed it
remember seeing too
before,
much about
but not
it before.
this much.
Like they showed
They
actual
definitely showed a big
gameplay.
chunk of it. Yeah,
It was
Yeah,
like
I thought that
it was
was-
like the trailer interspersed with gameplay, right? Like
Mhm.
not like the straight. Yeah.
And this is
Yeah.
where they kind of revealed, at least as far as I know, that sort of vibe of it. This woman being transported from the real world to
from
this
into
world.
this.
Right.
Old
Yeah. This is
fantasy
our first
world,
kind
yeah.
of view into what the
premise.
story is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, for sure.
it has young adult like fantasy vibes. Then where
It worked for Horizon though, so I don't know. Could work for this
Yeah.
too.
We'll
Yeah,
see.
I thought it looked decent enough that I'll be interested in playing it for sure. God of War, I thought looked incredible because that's the first. I know you mentioned it at the top, but that's the first time that they've really shown it.
Yes,
I loved God of War 2016 or whatever year that was that came out. That was one of my favorite games.
Yeah.
So I'm really stoked to see where they go
Me-
with this one. And they
Me
finally
too.
showed some.
There's lots
kind
of
of the
lore
story.
about like who they introduced this young teen girl at the end of
Mhm.
that trailer, and there's lots of rumors speculating that she's a frost giant.
Oh wow!
Oh, interesting.
And so lots of like Norse mythology. So really excited to play as Kratos to kill some Norse gods.
Yep.
Yeah.
That looks incredible.
What do you guys think about the fucking bullshit controversy around this game right now?
Was it like Fat Thor? Was that the?
Oh yeah, that's bullshit.
Well, there's Fat Thor. I
That's
don't.
fine.
Nobody's. That's fine. That Thor.
Yeah.
Thor
yeah,
is
it
fat.
looks cool actually. I think
We had a whole Marvel movie with Fat Thor, so it's like, why is anybody complaining? And then also, but it's the, people are saying like, aren't you guys seeing how the animations of him getting in the boat are the exact same as the last game?
Oh, it's
like,
PS4.
yeah, it's a sequel to the game. It's like, okay, if they reuse some assets.
Well, the thing
you
is,
know?
this is going to be, and I kind of noted this in my notes at the top too. Like a lot of these are still going to be PS4 games, also, which to me
Right.
is that's just like inherently disappointing. But I mean, it is what it is, and you're right. A lot of it did look like God of War 2016 visually.
Yeah.
That's not a bad thing though. I mean, that game was a pretty incredible technical feat. I mean, with all the like the camera direction, and basically that game never cuts too, and they were doing that on the PS4 before PS5 load times and stuff like that. So
Right.
I mean, I think that it would be cool to see what they could do with just PS5, like I guess like next gen power exclusively, but I don't think it's going to hurt that game too much in the long term either way.
Yeah.
But that's interesting to hear that I guess people are calling that out so early on.
I mean, everybody's always going to have something to complain about.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
the maybe last thing we should mention. I really thought that Tchia, however you pronounce that, and I'm sure I'm not saying it right. Game
Chia or something.
Chia, yeah, looked really interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, it
Definitely.
looked like it kind of borrowed some mechanics from Super Mario Odyssey, but also I like a game where you can play music. like
Yep.
you can play the ukulele. It looks like.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I thought the most intriguing looking game.
Yeah,
I mean,
for sure.
For me,
Yeah.
it's like I just have been out of the PlayStation kind of ecosystem for so long. Like a lot of these, like more like mature, depressing games I kind of just haven't really vibed with. Like I didn't ever really play that much of The Last of Us or God of War or any of this kind of stuff, right? So it's like, or even really the Spider-Man game, which I've heard is fantastic, and I bought it, and I bought Horizon Zero Dawn. I just like have a hard time trudging through some of these games. But I'm like a Nintendo gamer, and so like I was like, oh, a game where you can jump into frogs and like dogs and shit, like that looks like fun.
Same hard.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah. And I was like, and it looked colorful and like fun, and I don't know what that says about me, but definitely it did seem very fluid. The whole like jumping into animals' bodies mechanic, which I like.
Yeah, they had a lot of different cool examples of different animals you could jump into too, which I mean, it was definitely one of the standout of the show.
Yeah.
Compared to, pretty much everything else just being, like you said, regular, typical run of the mill PlayStation exclusive
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah,
And-
I have general thoughts about like responses to how the showcase was. But one of the games they also showed was Wolverine. I'm excited to see what Insomniac does with that franchise, and more specifically, where in like the Wolverine timeline it'll take place. Is it like early Wolverine Weapon X, or is it later Old Man Logan?
Yeah, Old Man Logan would be really cool. I think that was one of the big surprises of the show. A lot of things leaked beforehand. I don't think I saw anything about any Wolverine game even coming out. I think it's a huge sign of faith in Sony's ability to make games. That Marvel is trusting them with another one of their huge properties, and we haven't seen, frankly, anything on that on like Xbox's side, or there's Switch games that Marvel invests in, like Ultimate Alliance and stuff like that. But I mean, that's crazy that they're going to get that Insomniac themselves is going to be working on another AAA Marvel game.
That to me, this just proves how many teams are at Insomniac. That they're able to have
for sure
6 games going at any one time, right?
Yep.
Because they've got this and the new Spider-Man game
and Spider-Man 2. Yeah,
and I looked it up, by the way. The writer for this new Wolverine game is one of the guys who wrote Spec Ops: The Line. So it's
wow.
It's like that game obviously told a very emotional and powerful story.
Yeah.
Through violence, you know what I mean? And so it's like, so that if they can kind of nail some of that, then you're right. This might be kind of, Matt, that this might be kind of like Old Man Logan vibes or whatever, at least I get the feeling from that. Him sitting at the bar. I mean, I guess that's how the first X-Men movie starts, is him sitting at a bar. Maybe he'll just be sitting at a bar the entire game. We know nothing about this other than the fact that Insomniac is making it.
That's the player fantasy of Wolverine, is to just sit at a bar.
Yeah.
In Canada.
Press F to sit at the
bar. Well, we should move on unless there's anything else about the showcase.
Quick shout out to Spider-Man 2, because I know we've already been ranting on Insomniac for the past 2 minutes, but it looks incredible. Venom looks incredible. I think they've got another villain in it too. It's incredible that they're already showing it off. Can't wait for more.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Just circling back, David, what you were saying is like, I think generally it feels like PlayStation and maybe a little bit of Microsoft are still like, it still feels like 2003, 2004 console launches. It's like this mature audience. It's like this gray, drab kind of metal textures. That's kind of what it feels like. It doesn't have like this playful sense, and watching that like other like cartoony fantastical game felt completely out of place amongst all these other ones. And so I think it just goes to show us who their audiences are and who they think their demographic is who's playing their games.
Totally.
Yeah.
I mean, it's selling well. They're flying off the shelves. People are buying these games. So there's definitely an audience for it. And I think it's great. I think it's great that there are different kinds of games on different kinds of platforms. It just means that more types of gamers can be happy with whatever they decide to purchase.
Yeah. Well, a couple other quick Sony news. One is that they announced they acquired Firesprite Games, which isn't a company I'm terribly familiar with, but I know that they've been doing Sony properties some. Like they did a Sackboy mobile game, and they did like a Playroom.
Yeah, those Playroom games.
Yeah.
I don't really know them from too much either besides that.
So we'll see what
sounds like they're most familiar with Sony stuff anyway, right?
Yeah.
So it makes sense.
Makes sense, but just another notch on Sony's belt as they've been acquiring studios. It feels like.
Yeah, and quick note that I don't think they said anything about Blue Point. Just kind of also tying back into the showcase, which I kind of thought was going to be brought up in that. I don't
think whatever Blue Point is working on right now is ready to be shown or talked about yet. Yeah, I think it's probably
at least just an acquisition. But I don't think they even own Blue Point yet, which is weird.
Yeah.
But, and then,
anyways,
there's also been some controversy and sort of a new development with this over the last couple of weeks about Horizon Forbidden West. And this sort of ties into what you were talking about, Jeremy, with God of War being all these games straddling this PS4, PS5 era, and them really pushing that if you were going to buy it for PS4, you would be forced to buy, as I understand it, right, another edition or like an expensive edition to have
$10 more
to have both. But now they've gone.
Yeah.
Now they're charging $10. But previously, it had been stated that it would cost a lot more than that to do it.
Well, didn't they say it's just if you can't you upgrade for free now? Didn't they backpedal?
I think they weren't going to offer the upgrade, right? Originally for Horizon or something.
Now
like that.
it's a $10 upgrade.
Yeah,
I could be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that
right.
previously there was no upgrade option unless you bought some like mega edition of the game.
Like the $250 edition. It came with both a PS4 and a PS5 copy.
Right.
Is what I think was the case there, which is just silly.
Right. And now there's about a bunch of pushback, which this is good because we talk about, it'd be nice if you bought a game if it could transfer.
Yep.
And Microsoft has really been pushing that. And now Sony is being forced along somewhat, at least. And I think that's good. I think hopefully other companies like Nintendo will also do stuff like this. That we'll see.
Jim Ryan says, while the pandemic's profound effect pushed Forbidden West out the launch window we initially envisioned, we will stand by our offer. Players who purchase Horizon Forbidden West on PlayStation 4 will be able to upgrade to the PlayStation 5 version for free.
Okay, so they did make it free now.
They backpedaled because there was such huge fan backlash.
Games going forward are going to be $10 now. I think they just made Horizon
exactly.
Wash,
but they were like, oops, all right, we'll take the L on this one. You know what I mean? So
right.
It's like there really is zero reason to buy Forbidden West on the PS5.
On PS5, yeah.
Because
but I think
it's $70 on PS5 and $60 on PS4, and then you can upgrade it for free now.
Yeah.
The fact that none of us even know like what the situation is, like shows that like it's confusing for the consumer, and I think it's confusing within PlayStation. I don't think they thought this through at all, right? And I think that's a major problem because like one of the first things we heard about the new Xbox is that smart delivery. It's going to happen right away. You buy the old game, you get it on the Xbox Series X. Yeah, and on PC, right? And so they were very clear with their language and stuff like that. And Sony, like, I think got a little too safe with it, right? And they were like, oh, okay, well, people will do whatever. Now people are getting pissed and they're having to like figure it out the hard way, like now that the system's already out.
Yep.
Yes.
And like
that makes sense. And I understand it better now.
Deathloop is a PS5 exclusive and it's $60, right? So I think that's another like great example of how kind of how terrible like there's no logic behind which games are $60, which games are $70, why they decided to do this with Horizon without basically just the answer is basically they just want to start charging everybody $70 for games now. Yeah. And that's what everything's moving towards. And personally, I think that in itself is kind of a problem. I think it's a little bit too early to be moving up to some of these games being $70. I think there's a lot of great examples of games, first party games that should not be like that much. Like Returnal, I think was a $60 game. I mean, I would argue that with pretty much every other game too. But it just seems like that's where we're going quickly. And I don't want to see it bump up another $10 next generation too, where we're paying $80 5 years from now.
All this big showcase stuff. Simultaneously, there's been a lot of direct rumors happening. Also, it's just traditionally, at least the last few years, there's been a direct in September. So everybody's expecting that. There's a lot of rumors, a lot of alleged leakers saying it's going to happen around the time of WarioWare release. And then some speculation that maybe this showcase got announced and that pushed things. We'll see. But there's been a lot of rumors of a direct, and I think just a lot of it's based on historical precedent. So maybe David from the future will have to chime in and correct me, but
fuck that. He's on vacation
permanently. He is in the future.
Hey guys, I'm on vacation. I haven't heard anything about it direct in a while, but I've been at Cabo sipping a bunch of space martinis, and so I kind of forget a lot of what happened with the direct back then in the year 2021. But you know what I remember is that we did get Bluetooth added to the Switch. So, I got a page from David in the past to beam in. That's right, we have pagers, future pagers. Old technology comes back. It's kind of hip to live in the past. Anyway, there's Bluetooth audio on Switch now. They did it. They fucking did it. They did it. They put it on there. Volume's kind of low, and my Pixel Buds don't work very well, but it's on there. By gosh. I'm sure we'll talk about it more next episode. But I got to get back to the beach. Got a couple space tequilas to down. Back to the show. Honestly, if there's a direct announced this week, like before this episode comes out and it comes out, I think we should probably record a special episode on it.
Oh, totally.
But but it's like, I mean, who knows, right? Like they said that it would be last week, and now they're saying it's going to be this week. And then if it's not this week, they'll say it's next week.
It's totally next
so
week.
We're just going to have to wait and see as far as this is concerned. I think that there isn't really any smoke other than people just speculating that now is about the time we get one. So anything that you see online where people are like, I hear there's one this week, it's really just grasping at straws as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Feels like they don't have too much left to show for the end of the year. I mean, I know there's
they got a lot of stuff
to come out. Is Shin Megami?
I think they got a lot of stuff for next year.
I think that they do have a lot of stuff to show for next year. I don't know if any of it's really in a state that they want to be showing that in September yet, but more power to them. Felt like they just had one not too long ago too, but I would love to see the next Smash character also as well.
Yeah, that'll be likely.
Yeah. And that Nicktoons game has been getting shown off a lot, and I'm just praying that they're going to do like a Shadow
Nicktoons doesn't need a direct to show off the All-Star Brawl.
Shadow
Drop.
do
that on Twitter.
Shadow Drop.
Well, something that probably won't be in a direct is a Star Fox Zero port, but maybe, I don't know. Because there was just recently an interview over at VGC that with head of Platinum Inaba, who said that they would be interested in porting it if they were given the opportunity, which makes it sound like unless he's playing, mind games with us, that they are not presently porting it. Though I suppose Nintendo could have handed it to somebody else to port without their knowledge. I don't know. Probably unlikely, but so that probably won't be something we're seeing anytime soon. But it is sort of one of the last big Wii U games that hasn't been ported. So it also seems like it might happen. I don't know. What do y'all think about that comment or the possibility of us finally seeing that ported?
I think that Platinum has more than enough on their plate right now, and does not need to take on a Star Fox Zero port. Platinum should be doing Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. Anyway, and because this game, there's a reason that this game hasn't come to Switch yet, and it's because it's intrinsic. It would have to be completely rebuilt from the ground up. It's made for the gamepad and TV having two different things on it at the same time.
Absolutely.
So it's like it would be a totally different game. As much as I would like to see it on the Switch, because I think it deserves a fair shake, even though I tried it out and I didn't like it because I couldn't get behind the controls. As much as I think it deserves a fair shake with a bigger audience, it's just, I think you should just make a new Star Fox game at this point.
I agree.
And I'm tired of seeing the original Star Fox game rebooted at this point too. That's like the fourth time that this game has been rebooted between that 64, the 3DS remake, and Star Fox Zero. It's all just telling the same story. So I think it's time to do some new stuff in the Star Fox universe. It could be the same kind of game, but let's just tell a different story.
Just
give us. Oh, you make the joke.
No, you make the joke. You do it. You make the joke. Are we gonna make the same joke?
Here's the joke.
Say it at the same time. Say it at the same time.
Give us the Princess Daisy of Star Fox is what I was gonna say.
Okay. That's not what Matt was gonna say.
Yeah, well, close. I was just gonna say, give it to Aspire. They'll remake it.
Look, we all have Star Fox jokes. Okay.
Yeah. Grab it and slap it. That's no big deal.
Yeah. Grab it and slap it. You just have to play it with two switches connected through wireless.
Well,
yeah. Anyway, I just don't think it's going to happen. I think, but focus on Bayonetta 3, guys. You guys make the fucking game. Yeah.
One thing we could possibly see in if it comes up is that, again, a lot of rumors here, but there's been rumors of Game Boy games coming to the Nintendo Switch Online system. In particular, Eurogamer, and I think also Nintendo Life had allegedly had sources that told them that. So whatever that means, it seems like unfortunately that seems like the next likely console that would come to NSO if they were going to.
Unfortunately, compared to what? Like
I don't know if they're going to. Yes, or I don't know. It's not a bad thing. If anything they add is good, but it's like
I just feel like we're so far along in the Switch's life
gems.
cycle now that I would love to see just more than just the old, the original Game Boy, right? Not even Game Boy Advance. There's just so much more they could add. Besides that,
I think that's
taken them
part
forever
of it.
to do it.
I definitely would love to see Game Boy Advance, because it's like, I think was watching a video actually like earlier today when I was taking a shit of like the best. I didn't need to say that. Of like just like the best Game Boy Advance games. And I was looking at that and I was like, man, I feel like that was like the peak of pixel art, like pre-indie renaissance. You know what I mean? Like, because now like indies, they're like doing HD pixel art and it looks beautiful and all this shit, right? But it's like the OG pixel art, like the Game Boy Advance, some of those games are fucking beautiful. You know what I mean? And I think would look really good on like a Switch OLED, right? And so it's like that would be great. But also there are great bangers on Game Boy and Game Boy Color too. That having been said, let's not get in over our heads with hype on this one, because I really do think that a lot of this is again the hype machine that is spewing this stuff. You know, a lot of the early reports were coming from Nate the Hate on his podcast that he does with MVG, and it's like they even said in it, they're like, this is based on data mining from like 3 or 4 years ago. We have no new information. We're just talking about this because it's about high time for stuff to happen again. You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden, as soon as they put out that episode, all these different websites sort of be like, yeah, we have sources saying Game Boy is coming. And it's like, do you though? Like, what, wouldn't you have said this already and not done it like the day that Nate the Hate like drops his podcast, you know? So I think take all this with a massive grain of salt. I think keep your expectations very low. That would be great if we see it, but they don't usually show this kind of stuff in a direct. So just keep your expectations low is all I'll say.
It's another safe guess, I feel like. You know what I mean? Or like, I can see why you might say there'll probably be a direct in September. You know,
yeah.
They had been adding new consoles every September until 2020, which was a very different year. So I could see them. Yeah. Anyway, we should move on.
We took 2 weeks off, and I've become completely jaded during that time.
We have a lot of news because we also took 2 weeks off. So we should move on. Big Brain Academy, Brain versus Brain, was announced for the Switch during these 2 weeks, which is, yeah, I guess we never got the brain training game in the West here, or in the United States at least, but we are getting this game, and it's a $30 game. I guess it's sort of it's got an online mode and sort of a competitive based, what's the word I'm looking for? These sort of logic puzzle-y kind of things, right? Yeah, that does it. They showed off a trailer. I think one of the interesting things here for me, at least, is that earlier this summer, they were sending out surveys about how much people would pay. And you know, we're going to talk about WarioWare, and Nintendo had sent out surveys not too long ago about how much people would be willing to pay for WarioWare. So we should be paying attention when those surveys go out, because they seem to be giving us an indication of these more budget or slightly cheaper games coming.
Interesting.
What's the name of this Brain Age game?
Big Brain Academy. Brain versus Brain.
It's different from Brain Age.
Yeah, it's like slightly. It's not. It sounds similar, right?
Well, Brain Age can't be sold in the US anymore. Nintendo's not even fucking with it because they got lawsuits, because they were like, it makes you smarter, and there's like zero science that shows that it makes you smarter. And I think this game is able to come out because it's a more casual experience. It's player versus player.
It makes you dumber.
It makes you dumber. They're like, this makes you dumber. And we're like, yeah, wash it down with a Coke. But so that's why I think this game came out, and the other one came out in like Europe because they had no such lawsuits there. Like I have the new Brain Age like on my Switch, but it's because I bought like a European version.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But this game is definitely more geared towards kids. It's more casual, a little bit more competitive. It was another just like big selling DS game back in the day.
Yeah.
So some news maybe a little close to home here, but this just got announced today, I think, that the new Tomb Raider anime show or animation show is going to have Haley Atwell of Peggy Carter Marvel fame, right? That's who that actress is. Play, or voice, I guess we should say, Lara Croft. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's one of the new shows Powerhouse Animation is doing, who did the Castlevania series. So this is their kind of next foray into video games with Haley Atwell, which I think is great casting.
That's awesome.
I have nothing else to add to this story.
Of course you don't.
Start fishing.
Tell us, David. Tell us right now. You are
playing Zelda and the Zelda anime.
Yeah,
is there a game?
You are taking a shit and you started learning about Tomb Raider. Spill it.
I stuck this next news in for David. Super Monkey Ball Banana Mania. They announced that you can play as the Dreamcast in a ball.
Yeah,
As
baby.
one of
This
the
is
DLC.
some of the best news I've heard
One
all
of the-
year.
One of the
Did we know this?
DLC.
I mean, we've known this for a while.
Have
right?
we? I don't know. I
Yeah.
felt like it was making the rounds, so I added it in here.
Well, they had it originally as part of like the digital deluxe version, and I guess they just recently did a showcase of it. And
Gotcha.
maybe now is just the first time we've actually seen footage of it.
Right.
Because they did show it like in the early like pre-release like press that they were doing. But this is the first time that we've seen a Dreamcast floating in a ball, rolling around at high speeds, and it is delightful to watch. I will say
It's quite a
that.
sight.
Yeah.
It's quite a sight.
They're putting everything in a ball, it seems.
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew
People
about
on
the
Twitter are
Yakuza
now
game.
like making fake videos where they're like, I am now in a ball. And it looks really realistic. And it's hard for me to tell
Oh
what's
my
real
God.
and what isn't these days.
That's hilarious. Why don't just put everything in a ball? Why can't we get some like crossover
They should put the box art for the original Super Monkey Ball for GameCube in a ball.
in the? Oh, that's a good idea. Ballception.
Meta.
I thought this was interesting. A hand-drawn like games guide collection thing had a Kickstarter that raised a ton of money. It's like this sort of hand-drawn guide for old NES games. And then they pulled it because they got some sort of maybe takedown issue. There's some issue with one of the developers. I can't imagine. I just am blown away if Nintendo is letting them make this thing.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Like,
was it one of the?
I don't know.
devs
Do
or
y'all,
was
do y'all
it
think that's
Nintendo?
weird?
I'm sure Nintendo.
Yeah,
would
like,
hit the big red button on that quick as soon as they caught.
I would have thought so
What,
too.
making money off of a Nintendo property, regardless
Yeah.
of what it is. Yeah.
unless
yeah.
they really did cross their T's and dot their I's and contact them and they let them make this thing, which is possible.
Well,
But
they
it
did
also-
say that somebody contacted them. And they
Right.
didn't say it was like a cease and desist. They just said they got contacted and then made the decision to pull it.
Right.
Right. So maybe they're dancing around like what actually happened there. But people also like I was following this on Twitter and the creator of this was like, hey, look, Kotaku and all these websites are saying Nintendo told us to take this
Right.
down. And he's like, I never said that specifically. So it's like they're dancing around exactly what's happened here. So that's weird. That having been said, these are fucking cool. And it's a real shame that these got canceled. Have you guys seen some of the stuff that they've been making?
Yeah,
here?
these are. They had my understanding, two Nintendo properties. They had a Metroid and a Legend of Zelda game guide, but they also had non-Nintendo hand drawn game guides too, like Contra.
Castlevania or something.
Contra was one of them, and Digigaiden was another one.
Interesting.
It just seems to me like if you're going to do this, you should have all of your, issues with that taken care of before you launch
for
it.
sure.
And maybe they tried to, and maybe they did. I don't know. But it's an interesting story, I think.
I think this is just the year to not release Metroid fan content. Look, Metroid like never has games release. And if you know that a Metroid game is releasing like on that year, maybe just wait until next year to make a Metroid thing. Because I don't think Nintendo wants anything competing with that.
Yeah, they their pledge amount on their Kickstarter was $20,000. Their goal,
Right.
and they got upwards of 322,000.
Wow.
That'll definitely set off some red flags.
Some alarms there.
Yeah.
Were they just like hand drawing stuff from like old Prima guides, or were they making, I guess, the guides
They're-
themselves from
They're
scratch?
basically making like manuals or whatever that
Yeah.
were like hand.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just seems to step on some rights that would be hard to clear to me.
For
but-
sure.
but
Yeah.
who knows? And then the last bit of news, which is maybe non-news, but it is interesting, is that in Europe, in the UK store in particular, the UK Nintendo store has slightly dropped the price of the quote-unquote regular Switch. And there had been some rumors of this coming in the last several days, and then it happened. And it's just that one region, so people were speculating that might be a price drop on the old model everywhere, but also there's people saying this might just be a sort of exchange rate thing because the pound and the euro are really high right now. So it might just be a bit of a accommodation for that, more than not. At least that's some of the stuff I've seen. What do y'all think? Do y'all think it's possible they might cut the price of the previous Switch? I don't think they would do it now. It would be a
No.
weird time to do it now, right?
Yeah, well, wasn't it Nintendo themselves are the ones who said that it was like a exchange rate thing, right? Because I think they got questioned about it, and they were basically like, "We don't."
I hadn't seen anything official, but that might be if it just because this is pretty new.
Not. I thought it was straight from them or somebody because I guess like when this news came out, everybody started asking, and so they were like, "We basically have no plans," and this was because of that stuff. So if it's really from Nintendo themselves, I think that's pretty dead set there that they're not going to do anything in a while. But I think it's kind of 50-50 otherwise. I guess honestly either way, because the OLED is going to be $350, isn't it? It's 50 more than the regular Switches now already.
Right.
So that would put that difference a bit to be like quite a bit more, I guess. Because what would they drop it to? Like 250?
Yeah. 270? Right? I don't know.
It's kind of an awkward price.
I mean, Nintendo has slashed the price of their consoles before. Never when they're doing well, though.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, like, it's hard to find regular Switches right now, as far as I understand, or maybe not hard to find, but I mean, they're not like, in huge supply right now. They're selling.
Yeah.
So
I think that it would be nice to drop the price of the Switch. I think that would be good for them to do. I think also now seems like a really good time to start getting like a Nintendo Selects line out. You know how they do that for their consoles, where it's like, hey, these are the best sellers, and they're like $20 now, or $30 or whatever, or $40.
Yeah, probably 40.
Probably be 40 this go round. Yeah, but it's like, I mean, this seems like that point in the life cycle, right? And with a new model coming out, I feel like that would get even more people in that have been reticent to pick it up so far. You know what I mean? So it's like that's where I'm sitting on it, but it's also you got to understand the position too of being like, yo, look, America, people will not stop buying this thing. We're not going to drop it. Like that's fair. And if it is, this has got to be an exchange thing. You know what I mean? A currency exchange issue. So it's like, I don't know. It is definitely weird and kind of random news in the past couple days. But I would like to see them drop the price here in the States.
I think having the Select brand of games would be very interesting. That totally makes sense. I'm thinking for games like Mario Tennis, maybe Splatoon 2, but definitely not Mario Kart 8 Deluxe because that's still selling well.
That's always in like the top 5 every month. Yeah. It's wild.
All right. Well, with that, we did it. We got through a lot of the news. We had to cut some things and not add some news from the last 2 weeks, but we did it. And we're going to take a break. And when we come back, we're going to talk all about the new WarioWare game, WarioWare Get It Together. We are back, and we are talking this week about WarioWare Get It Together, which just released for the Nintendo Switch on Friday, September 10th of 2021. We're pointing at each other.
No, I'm pointing at my poster. Yeah. Man, so rip audio listeners. This is a video only podcast now.
We are going to talk all about this game and our impressions of it. And like David said at the top, we'll probably talk a little bit about the series. My understanding is this is the 10th game in the series. It sort of depends on how you count it, like all these sort of things. But well, before we get into any of that, just sort of big picture, we've all had a chance to play at least a little bit of the game. How much have you played? How much have you enjoyed it? What's been some of the standout moments or what have you?
Yeah, I mean, I've played through the story twice now, actually. I played through by myself, and then I played over at Jeremy's. We played through the game, the story mode in co-op as well. Both are very fun. I had a great time with both. The one thing, unfortunately, that I have a blind spot on is the other multiplayer games that aren't just the story mode. So unfortunately, I haven't been able to play that with other people yet, although I do hear that those are funner. Some of them are hit and miss, is what I understand. But I love this game. I've been a big fan of the WarioWare series since day one. I've been playing them since the first game came out, and I always look forward to a new WarioWare game. I think I've owned every single game in the series. And this is a great one. I mean, it obviously shakes up the formula quite a bit. There's quite a few changes to just like the fundamentals of how the game is played, but other than having like characters that you play as in all the games now, like it still is tiny micro games. It's still really fast paced. still got that same vibe, and the humor is there. And yeah, I'm loving this game. I think it's fantastic.
I love it. I like in with the other WarioWare games. I don't think I played every single one of them. I put like a few down. The main one that I played the most was the Wii one, Smooth Moves. And I played the DS one a lot. I think what was the Wario? The Touch. I think was the DS one. Those are the ones that I played the most besides this, and then the 3DS one a bit, and Twisted a bit too. And I like David said, we ran through co-op the other night, which I thought was a total blast, especially with a few beers and stuff. It was a real silly time. I really enjoyed it.
Couple shots and a couple beers. Yeah.
That game really gets going. Yeah. And like David said, that game, like WarioWare always is, especially like with the core WarioWare games that kind of follow the gimmick and then roll with like straight up micro games in your face. It gets pretty hard at the end too. I thought, especially when you start to be like 10 mini games, because you're just like, holy crap, what do I do right now? You don't even have time to think for some of them. And it was a blast. Like David said, I played a couple of the other multiplayer ones, like I guess like the side games that you kind of unlock when you're kind of at the end of it. They were okay. I would like to play more of those, like David said. I think that there's a lot of room there. Hit or miss, probably that sounds about right for a lot of those WarioWare side games. That's how I remember pretty much like Smooth Moves being. I think Smooth Moves ended up being probably my favorite one because it felt like it was the best one to play as a party game. I just remember that game being really fun to like pass the Wii remote around basically between people, and just having a blast with that. So I think this game kind of like, I would have liked to see, I guess, some sort of like, and I know with the Switch Lite, it's hard to kind of do that, but I would have liked to see some sort of similar like Wiimote only, I guess, like touch functionality, or at least just like something there. I know the game is basically built on a totally different premise that has nothing to do with motion controls or anything. And I think it takes that and runs with it. Like David said, I think it's super creative the way that they basically built all of these micro games in a way that they can be beaten in 12 or whatever different ways, however many different, and you keep unlocking characters till the end of it.
There's like really hidden characters too, which is great. Yeah. Very silly. They get really silly with it. And then the other thing that I really, really loved about this, probably more than any of the other WarioWares, and probably like it definitely gets points in my book just for that, but just the production of it all, or in like the cinematics and stuff and the lore behind it all. They've really like built a lot of these WarioWare characters into their own people at this point, and this game really kind of goes with that too. Like all the cutscenes have really good music. They've got really good personality in all of it. The animation style is great. You kind of get like a little slice of everybody in the WarioWare crew, which is crazy because there's like 13 of them that you go through. But yeah, I mean, I love WarioWare and I love to see the characters too. This is definitely one of my favorite ones for sure.
Yeah, real quickly before I throw this to Matt, I after watching all these cutscenes and stuff, I was definitely like, they should make a WarioWare cartoon for kids. Like,
yes,
it definitely struck me. Matt, have you had a chance to play the game much at all, or
I have.
What are your
I loved it. I had a great time. End of review.
End of review.
I haven't played a WarioWare game since the Wii. Was that Smooth?
That was Smooth.
Is that what
Moves.
You said?
Yeah.
Yep.
And so there's so much joy in this game, and so many surprises. Everything from like plugging a nose to helping Link in Breath of the Wild. There's just so many surprises, and even like 15 minutes in, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this. I remember getting surprised. Oh, this is silly. This is fun. And then like I'm like halfway through the story, I'm like, oh, this is why everyone loves this game. This is why everyone's always clamoring for more WarioWare games, because it's so joyful and it's so much fun to play. They're little micro games. They're just so enjoyable. It feels good to have like a fun, joyful game that you could just to play around just for silliness.
That's like that like if there's one word that you could really describe like WarioWare as a whole, or at least like when it's at its best, it's like silly. And just
every
totally
WarioWare game ever made has made me laugh out loud when playing it alone by myself in a room. You know, that's so rare. It's like usually only like laugh when other people are around, but I'll just be like alone in my room and just like laughing out loud, like super hard at the random shit that happens. Great stuff.
I think that happened on one of the mini games where you're getting the dog to drink water. And then after he drinks water, it just like spins.
His tongue spins around.
Yeah. I laughed at that for way too long.
Kind of disturbing, but also very funny.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of potty humor too.
Patrick, what do you think about the game?
Yeah, I've never played a WarioWare game before, actually. So this was my first one, and I have had a blast. I've exclusively played it 2-player with my son, and we went through the story mode, and that was a lot of fun. And we went back through it and tried to like the point of some of these to like get high scores and that kind
Right.
of stuff. And we've had fun doing that.
Yep.
And it's just fun to play with another person, as I'm sure y'all experience too, where it's that hectic nature, like you're talking about, Jeremy, where at the end it's moving fast and you're yelling at each other and like, no, get the thing or whatever, like that's helpful to say, but but yeah, I definitely get the appeal of it. And we played a few of the things in the variety pack. We haven't played them all, which is good, because I was worried after beating the story mode that like, oh, maybe this, even though it's fun to replay this, there won't be much, but we've still got several things to explore. And what we played was fun. There was Duelius Maximus, one of the like multiplayer modes, where it's basically the same thing as co-op, but against each other. And then there's 2 ways you can play that, which is actually kind of nice. You can play it where you both can win and neither of you lose a point, or whoever wins first wins. And we played it both ways. So it's cool that those both options are there. And then we played Sly Angle, which had a bunch of new games, which was kind of cool. And you build triangles, and then kind of like Splatoon style, whoever's got the most area wins. So I don't know. So far, I've been really enjoying it.
I think it really shines in co-op. I played through a bit of it in single player, and it definitely is a ton of fun. But like you said, just being able to kind of yell at each other in local is just really like, it adds that extra layer of like just Nintendo like zaniness to local.
Yeah. And the name Get It Together, it makes you think that's really what they were going for. But I'd be curious to hear y'all explain a little bit, because I understand that, like you said, David, this one is very or somewhat different than the 9 or so previous WarioWare games, in that you can play as different characters and you actually play as the characters as opposed to the previous games. Is that the main difference, you would say?
I would say so, yeah. So basically in all the previous games, whenever it says like cross the thing or whatever, like, when it gives you like a prompt at the beginning of each one that basically like in a quarter of a second teaches you how to play the game, and it's like basically the input for each game was unique to whatever micro game it was, right? And then in this one, you're flying your character around on the screen in order to do those inputs, right? So like before, it would just be like, hey, you're controlling like a cat or whatever that's on it. But now you're like Wario pushing the cat around physically. You know what I mean? Or Mona or Ashley or any of these
any
characters.
Of the volts,
right?
yeah.
Right, yeah, any of the number of volts that there are in this game.
And it feels really traditional too, which I would say is like a lot, or like at least gameplay wise, and the way that you control it. At least of all the other WarioWares I played, like a lot of them are built around gimmicks specifically built for the console, which I guess this one kind of is too, with the Switch and being co-op and stuff. But it plays a lot more, I guess, traditional. Like you're using the stick to move, you're jumping with A. You're doing something. Yeah, you're basically either using the stick or jumping or doing something with A, like shooting or jumping. Whereas a lot of the other Wario's were, like there was the twisted one where you had the accelerometer you had to attach to the console, and pretty much all the games were built around that.
Right.
But yeah.
I mean this, but that's kind of how they get around the added complexity of having different characters with different move sets. Is basically like, yeah, there's all these different ways you can do it, but still the only inputs in the game are the directions and one button, right? And because they kept it simple, they're able to make it more complicated in other ways. So yeah, I think it's a good way to do it, but I also do understand the complaints from people being like, "Yo, we've got a fucking Switch with like a touch screen and motion controls and an IR camera sensor and all this shit, and it's not using any of it." And it's usually like WarioWare has historically been kind of the game to show off new capabilities of their new Nintendo hardware. So I understand a little bit of people's frustration there, but as somebody who just likes the zaniness of it, I think it's zany enough already. I don't think it needed that much more added to it personally.
I got a quick question for y'all that have played the previous ones. Like, the fact that you can play as all these different characters, and that there is a mode where like you can say, use all the characters and give me a random one, seems to me to add a lot of, variety and replayability to it? Does it seem like it has more of that because of that fact than previous ones, or about the same?
Yes, in a way. I mean, I think like I like to play where I just play with all turned on all the time. You know what I mean? Because then that's like more. I think throwing screws into into the situation, or throwing a wrench into the, I don't know what the fucking expression is, but throwing a wrench, I believe, into the gears of the games is what makes WarioWare. You know what I mean? It's like WarioWare games historically, it's like you're doing really, really great, and then you fuck up one micro game, and then it just cascades, and you just get tilted, and you start fucking up everything in a row, right? And that's kind of like very much what happens in this. It's like you get one character, then all of a sudden you're like, oh man, this is so much harder with this guy, and then you just start to cascade, and you just lose really quickly. And so that kind of like quick about face style of the gameplay, I think that it does add to that in this game. But it's also like WarioWare Gold came out for the 3DS a couple years ago, which was like the biggest WarioWare game to date. It was a remix of a lot of the earlier WarioWare games. That had like 300 mini games, right? This has about 200. So it's like the way that they get around not having more games is by adding more kind of characters to control. And so it kind of evens out eventually in the wash, I think.
Well, I think somebody asked this on Facebook, but while we're talking about characters, who's y'all's go-to or favorite characters, or least favorite or notable characters in this?
I could tell you my least favorite.
Who's your least favorite?
Fucking 9-Volt, dude. 9-Volt is the worst.
Yeah, 9-Volt's the worst.
9-Volt a lot. 9-Volt's kind of grown on me.
Really? Oh man. See, 9-Volt is like one of the coolest characters.
Goes back and forth. He's tight.
Yeah, but you can't. Come on.
He's got a yo-yo. Come on, lay off of him. He's got a yo-yo.
Exactly. He's the only one that skateboards.
Like 18-Volt has the thing where you like aim and you have to use the hooks to move around because he's like still the whole time. But it's like 9-Volt is that plus the ability that you're not just sitting in one place. You're like constantly moving, and you can't aim wherever. You can only shoot up. So he's just definitely the hardest. You know what I mean? And it's fine. I mean, and I think it's a little disappointing just because like 9-Volt historically has had like the coolest games. He's the one that has, in all these old WarioWare games, he's the one that remixes old Nintendo games for the micro games. So it's a bit of a bummer that he's kind of like definitely the hardest character to control. But yeah, I'd say he's the worst personally.
My son loves all the Volt characters and picks all Volts. If we play pick, like he'll pick all the Volt characters. And I'm kind of with Jeremy that 9-Volt is, because of that, started to grow on me, and he's gotten better at using him. And there are just some games where occasionally like being moving left to right actually helps or whatever, you know what I mean? Okay. But it's not very often. And I mean, sometimes it's also like, why did you pick 9-Volt? Because we're screwed now.
There are some characters that like make it just incredibly easy. Like the mom, I think it's 15-Volt or 5-Volt. Yeah. So she like in the mini game where you have to like get out of the jar or whatever, pop. You can just teleport right out of it. It's like, cool, you're done.
Out of the jar.
You don't have to like pop the top. You could just teleport right out.
That's good.
And so it's good. Yeah.
And I like how some characters are like that. Like sometimes you just luck into that, and sometimes you just luck into this minigame that's just kind of broken with the character you're using, or it's kind of like ridiculously hard.
Impossible. One of the ones in the like special mode, there's one where you have to like put a contact lens on like a Cyclops or something that's moving around, and my son got 5-Volt, and it's like, it's impossible because the Cyclops is moving, and anytime you pick a spot, unless you can anticipate its moves, like it was like, sorry, bud, it's your fault for picking all the Volts.
Yeah, the last character you get is pretty fun too.
Oh,
he just like shoots his tongue all over the place.
Pioro?
Yeah. Well, hey, maybe we should spoiler warning it. But,
I guess that is a spoiler.
But yeah,
too late. I spoiled it.
But yeah, Pioro is a character that's been around since the very first game. He was like in a side game, like little mini game, not a micro game, but a mini game that was like a part of it. So it's cool that he's finally a playable character.
The lore goes deep.
And yeah, I mean, the lore it kind of does actually, if you really dig. But like, but it's cool to see him in it. Like his tongue going out is really fun. And then obviously Penny as well. was, I think, a new character in WarioWare Gold, I'm pretty sure. So she's one of the newest characters, but I love her like water
She's
pack
the scientist,
mechanic.
right?
Yeah,
she's like Dr. Krygor. Yeah, she's like Dr. Krygor's granddaughter too, right?
Granddaughter. Yeah.
Her granddaughter, I think.
Yeah, and
he's old.
And she's just like a really interesting, fun character with like an awesome song that plays like during her section.
Oh yeah.
And then just having, you kind of have to reverse your controls there, because in order to move up, you have to shoot down.
And make sure you don't push A if you want to. It's she
Yeah.
kind of breaks your brain.
Yeah. But once you get her down, she's a lot of fun to use.
I think my favorite character is Jimmy T.
Jimmy T.
Jimmy T.
Yeah, just because after you win a game, you can like pose afterwards. Like,
Yeah. I mean, he's really badass. Something that's missing from this game, unfortunately, is all of like Jimmy T's family. Like in the original game, like all of his family members are like hanging out, and they all have different colored afros. Jimmy T is the shit. Yeah.
Shout out to Mona's cutscenes where she's like taking care of the animals in that giant mansion, and she comes home and like the pig that she's taking care of is just holding like a stuffed animal, another stuffed animal, and it's just like looking at the camera. It's like it didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah.
Her cutscene is one of the ones that makes the most sense.
Yeah.
I was actually reading some lore last night at like 4:00 in the morning because I couldn't fall asleep last night. It's basically saying there's like lore ideas that Mona is the child of Luigi and Daisy, and that the WarioWare games take place in the future.
Whoa.
I don't know what you guys think about that.
Wow.
She kind of looks like Daisy, right? She's got the red hair. And it's also like she lives in a mansion, and like Luigi's mansion. Like,
Oh, okay. There's some connection there.
That's a good point. And pizza.
And then people are like, well, yeah, it clearly does take place in the future because Wario's outfit is totally different. It's like, all right, we're thinking too hard about the canon of the Mario universe.
Sure. There's no canon to Mario universe. But while we're talking about the characters, there is a mode or a section of the game where you can like get presents and spend coins, which you earn in the game, and you start to quickly end up with a lot of coins if you don't do this, where you can buy presents and then give them to characters and get Prezzies. I'm sorry. Thank you. Yeah. And then like level them up. But I think the leveling up is just about aesthetics, right? It's just about
it's like cosmetic. Yeah.
Changing their outfits.
Is that what you get? You just get like,
you can change the color of their this or that.
You can do that. And then you can also get like character artwork. But I just think they're so unique. So I like to see the character art for this. So I think that's a pretty cool unlockable. I will say though, it's like WarioWare Twisted just spoiled me. Like that game had the best unlockables because basically like every time you would like in this game, you do like kind of a coin catching thing after every boss. Then you can spend that on unlockables. In WarioWare Twisted, it would be like a little crank thing, like a capsule machine, right? And everyone would either be a mini game, a record that you could play, or like just a figurine or little doodads that all use the motion mechanic. And it just feels like WarioWare Twisted had just like seemingly infinite number of rewards like that, where it's a little more limited in this game.
There is a crank machine in this one too to get presents, but it's boring. It's not
right.
Once again, they're Prezzies.
Sorry.
Yeah, they're Prezzies. Yeah. Pokemon
Patrick,
Prezzies.
would you shut your fucking mouth, please? They're Prezzies.
Right. Prezzies.
Pokemon Prezzies.
Well, so like I don't know. What do y'all want to talk about next? There's, we kind of talked about the story mode, which is pretty short, but is enjoyable.
It's it tracks. Like it's about as long as every other WarioWare.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's about unlocking stuff and grinding high scores. That's what this series has always been about.
Yeah, for sure. Very arcadey.
Yeah, that seems to me like it works well for that. Like I don't know how much time I'll put into it, when all is said and done, but I definitely feel like I will want to like get a better high score on everything, than I currently have for sure, or whatever.
Well, it's also like the first time you play through the story, you're not even seeing all of the games. You know what I mean? You have to go back to find new ones. And then it's also every time you beat a boss, the game changes and becomes harder the next time you play it. So it's like, that's a big part of it too, is like getting to the third level of each game and mastering those is a big part of what makes these games so fun.
Yeah, I we've replayed some, and occasionally they're like a new game will pop up, and I think that's good design that they have some games that must have, a rarer occurrence, right? I assume, or it's
are there games that only appear on like the higher star difficulties, or the like different tiers?
I don't think so. I think you'll eventually. Every game should have a 1, 2, and 3 level.
Okay.
That's something that's been around since the very beginning of WarioWare. Yeah.
But still, there are some games that after my full story playthrough, going back through, I'm seeing new ones. So I'm wondering if Matt is right that there are some games that maybe, I don't know what the algorithm is. Either they're just their frequency is rarer, or you have to come back to get them. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it's also just like I think it's just like random, So it's like you're not, and there's so many games that you're just not gonna see some just because of the law of large numbers. You know what I mean? Like
that's kind of what I think it is. Yeah, it's just like there's 20 to 30 in each category. So every time you play through it, it's kind of a coin toss if you're gonna get any of them. Yeah. Yeah.
And those Nintendo remix ones, like you were talking about, that are on specific to Able, those are a lot of fun. There's some really good ones.
Yeah, they're the funnest to run into. And there's some really obscure ones too. And
there's weird like board game ones, and I'm like, what the fuck is this even?
What is that reference to? Do you know?
Some old Japanese Nintendo board game that was made before, like in the original one. There's like the Claw game, which was like one of the first toys that Nintendo ever made. So like it goes back. And I think even one of the games is like Hanafuda is like one of the games that you play. So it's
what's that claw thing you're talking about?
Oh, that was from the first WarioWare game, but it was like a grabby claw that you kind of like move like this in order to grab balls like in real life. It was something that Nintendo did before they ever made video games.
In that triangle mini game, there is the way it works is that there's you're each a claw thing to grab one of the characters. So you randomly, and it feels kind of like what you're describing. So I wonder if that's another reference to that.
It probably is. Yeah. That's been a staple of the series since the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah. It's an interesting thing. I don't know how to describe it.
It's like an extendo.
Yeah.
Like if you're listening to the audio version, all of us are making like hand, we're making claw movements, like we're holding giant pliers,
like we're those trash pickup things or something.
Like a gopher.
You can get like those toys at Disney World or whatever. You just poke people with them.
But I just think it's like, I don't know. I just love this series so much, and it's like, and you guys, I've said this many times on the show, but I've got a really short attention span, and it's like long form games where I have to like commit a bunch of time like are really challenging for me. So a game that's just like 300 tiny games that just are constantly changing and is hitting my fucking like brain, like this series has just always been one of my favorites. It's like the kind of games that I really enjoy, and I also love that it's like, because there's so many games, it just shows the immense creativity of the team that makes these. This is one of the R&D teams that makes these, the same teams that did the Rhythm Heaven games as well, which is also just about wild, crazy variety and total batshit insanity. And so just every time I play one of these games, I'm just like blown away by like how hard it is to come up with any game idea. And then they just come up with hundreds of them, right? And just pack them all together. And they've made like 10 of these fucking games, with like hundreds of games each, And so it's like just the sheer like creativity of this R&D team that makes these games is mind-boggling to me. And I'll always be picking up a WarioWare game on day one just for that reason alone.
This kind of wacky creation, joyful, creative expression is exactly like why I'm a Nintendo fan. This is harkening back to like the PlayStation Showcase we talked about at the beginning of the episode. But like there is so much creative joy in some of these games. You're picking a nose, or you're escaping out of a trash bag, or you're crushing oranges in a blender. All these things like don't matter. You're playing as famous character Wario or these other characters, and you're just playing all these mini games and micro games, and it feels counterproductive to what the rest of the industry is doing, which they're following mechanics. They're putting their money in to where they can definitely make a lot of money back, and this feels like more fun and more of a kind of a response to try something new.
Yep. And like I know it probably will never happen, but I would love to see like them try and make this into like some sort of Smash character, or like combine somehow all 10 of these into like some. So I mean, I'm sure they could think of some way to do it, but like because they have 2 characters that they switch between with like Pyro and Mithra already. I would love to see them do something zany with
like the
some of these
WarioWare
characters.
ensemble as a character.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, I think that I mean, it was rumored for a while that the Rhythm kids from Rhythm Heaven would be in the game, which would have been a very similar idea. Yeah, that would be wild, dude. Just to like flip through all of them. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, like your down B just changes you to a random one. Or something.
yeah.
Let's just make it 9-volt and have him go on a skateboard.
No, Nintendo, don't listen to this man.
There you go.
Do it, Nintendo.
If
You
you're
cowards.
Add all the volts as one character.
If you're gonna put a character with a yo-yo into Smash, it's got to be the guy from Star Tropics. All right, let's go.
Well, I think we've hit a lot of the major points on this discussion. Is there anything, that we haven't talked about specific to this game or specific to the WarioWare series that y'all want to talk about?
Preparing for this episode, this was news to me, and maybe not to y'all, but I didn't know that because some of these micro games kind of started in the Mario Artist series for the Nintendo DD.
I did not know that either.
I didn't either.
Yeah.
No.
There's
Sounds like that checks out though.
Yeah, there's like maybe 8 micro games in Mario Odyssey that and the same R&D part of Nintendo that worked on WarioWare, worked on Mario Artist.
Yeah. I did know that that they all kind of got their start on the DD there, because this team's been around forever, and they've always done the weirdest fucking shit at Nintendo. They're like I don't know, they just do all the drugs, I think.
That's cool. It results in really experimental games, like you said, that I think always turn out one way or another zany.
One last question I have is, they ended up with a $50 price tag after sending out that survey. Do y'all think that's a fair price for this game? Like, or maybe it's too early for us to judge, but if somebody out there is on the fence, do you think you'd say definitely, worth it, or maybe hold off and see?
I think so. You don't see really any first-party Nintendo games at $40 anymore. That kind of died with the 3DS, right?
Unless it's brain versus brain.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the super budget stuff like that, like Snipper Clips or something like that.
Or yeah.
But it's like
box.
But it's like one of the main franchises, right? Like WarioWare is like a franchise, and like and I'm talking like Fire Emblem up until Three Houses has always been $40 in the West anyway, because it's been mostly like handheld entries in the Fire Emblem series of the West up until recently. And so it's like that. So I think all those games that were at 40 are now 50 on the Switch. You know what I mean? And so it's like, I think that Pokemon excluded. You know what I mean? But they're going to charge $60 for Pokemon. But it's like this feels to me like a good solid price point for this. And it's like, I just don't think that we're going to see too many of that $40 price point anymore. I think they're trying to bring that up to 50. But it feels fair to me. And it's like, and this game like has a lot of polish on it. And it like we talked about the production value of the cutscenes and the cinematics and the music and just the art style in general. It's like,
and there is a story that kind of makes sense.
The story makes 100% sense. And it's
100%.
Yeah. It's bugs. It's bugs.
It's
okay.
bugs.
But there's bugs in this game.
WarioWare QA.
Yeah, exactly. And it's also a great like thing at the end of the game too. Like again, a little bit of a spoiler, but it's like, Wario's like, you know what? I think I actually like the bugs. I think it's what makes this game like have its personality. And it's like, it's about like accepting your shit, flaws and all, you know what I mean? It's kind of got like a nice heartwarming story. I'm looking too much into this. Mona is Luigi's kid. But anyway, yeah, I think 50 feels like a good price point for me. I do think that it's not going to have quite as much replay value as some other games. But it just kind of depends on what kind of game you're looking for. Like I play Twisted all the time on my phone. You know what I mean? And I feel like I'll probably go back and play this often if I'm looking for like short spurt gameplay.
Yeah, I'm always going to go with $10 less, but I think they're never going to bump this down. So if you're looking for it and you think it sounds fun, yeah, get it. It's a blast.
I think we've kind of hit on this, but I do think it definitely has a lot of party game vibes, and I think multiplayer it really shines. And I think I could see myself like having a friend come over and we're like playing some games and be like, oh, we should play some of these WarioWare, games together. That would be a lot of fun, and yell at each other.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of go back and forth whether it's worth the $50. I don't know.
Yeah.
I've spent $50 on worse things. I spent $50 to see Huey Lewis in the news. So I don't.
That is not a bad thing.
I don't know. I was in a casino. So what I'm trying to say, if you like WarioWare, pick this up. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of joy. Yeah, it's worth it. Why not?
I think it's worth it.
Go see Huey Lewis in the news too.
If you want a new drug,
Yeah.
try
Yeah.
one.
Get blitzed on fucking whiskey and beer and play this game like me and Jeremy did. And you'll have a really good time.
Yeah, that'll.
Unless
ease
you
it
think
up a
it's
bit.
hip to be square.
Yeah.
Sports.
Also, I just want to give a shout out to all the WarioWare games before this. Patrick, you said this is your first WarioWare game. If you enjoyed this, you will enjoy literally all of the games.
There's a lot of them. I was surprised by how often these come out. And
If
how I
Game Boy
missed
Advance
them.
games ever do come to the Switch, I really, really hope the first game and Twisted come to the Switch,
Oh yeah,
because
that'd be cool.
those are both classics and they're just as fun as this game. I just feel like the quality level has never dropped off of the WarioWare series, and I think that's really nice.
I didn't like the Wii U one that much. The Game and Wario.
Maybe that
I
one
have
sucked,
that in
but the
my
rest of them are.
They didn't have micro games in Game and Wario. That was the part that I was.
That was a
like,
tech demo for the Wii U.
I guess so. Like
I don't know if I
it-
count that one.
Yeah, it's just weird because like it definitely was in the Wario universe, the Wario-verse, but
Yeah,
it didn't feel like a WarioWare game in that sense. But
I don't know. That's
but
just,
play the rest of them.
fantastic,
Yeah.
fantastic. Yeah.
At the end of the day, that's the power of love.
Thank you. All right. Got it.
Don't need money.
All right.
Back in time. Yeah, I'm just getting greedy.
We'll take a break. And when we come back, we'll talk about the other games we've been playing recently. This week, or 2 weeks, I guess it's been, but the games I want to talk about in particular are Miitopia. So like I fired back up Miitopia with my son. We were like, we're going to beat this game.
Okay.
And I don't know, man. Like we got to this point where I thought the game was gonna end, because you're leading up to beating the boss, and then it does that sort of classic JRPG thing where it's like, oh, that's not the boss, and I'm like, Miitopia. I was already feeling this was pretty repetitive and long, and then it's like, nope, the world is this big. You know what I mean? And it's like,
Yeah.
ooh. I
boy.
think that game should have ended right there, because it really felt like it was gonna be the ending, and I didn't want to fake out.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure. With WarioWare, we've been playing that, and we were trying to beat that before this, and I don't know. I really want to go back and beat it, but like, how much longer do I have to invest in this? It doesn't have enough variety and interesting.
You probably don't have to beat Miitopia, Pat.
I don't have
You can
to,
just
but
abandon it.
but I can see why people might abandon it after that, because that was kind of a unnecessary lengthening of the game there.
Yeah. I hate it when games do that.
Yeah, and sometimes it feels exciting if you're really interested in a game, but that game
Yeah.
is just so basic.
I feel like a lot of like JRPG type game or RPGs in general just kind of do that at the end. You know, like I felt the same way
Yes.
about Fire Emblem. I loved playing through Fire Emblem, but then I felt like I just got the rug pulled out from under me at the end, where I'm like, man, I don't know if I want to play through 6 more chapters.
Yeah, I want to
this
beat
game
the
right now.
game. I thought that was
Yeah,
the end, and you tricked
exactly.
me, and now I don't really know how I feel. Yeah.
Yep.
Mm.
Yep.
And then I wanted to mention Shovel Knight. I started playing the Plague Knight DLC, whatever you call it.
How did that go? You were
whatever.
streaming it too.
I am not sure about Plague Knight. Like, so I'm kind of, I found it feels, I didn't realize this. I thought it would be a new map or different levels designed around this character's moveset, but it's the same exact levels, but you play differently. And I'm finding it a lot more challenging because it doesn't feel as well balanced as it did when you played as Shovel Knight. And Plague Knight moves kind of weird and throws bombs in a weird way. And I'm parts where I just kind of cruise through it as Shovel Knight. I'm like I'm stuck here. Like I can't even jump across this chasm kind of a thing.
Yeah, there's some really hard platforming because of that.
Yeah, his movement is really weird. And I'm starting to get used to it, and it's not a super long game, and I'm enjoying it on some level. So, but I do find it a little bit weird of a balancing, and I don't know if that was deliberate or not. It kind of feels not deliberate. Well, because I think about like Team Cherry, like when they made Silk Song, they decided, oh wait, we need to make this different because Hornet controls differently and is a different size and we can't put it on the same map, and that's why they're making it a second game. And why they are like retooling it and it's taking so long. But this feels like, well, here's Plague Knight. You know what I mean? And you're going to suffer a little bit of trying to cross this, or like, I feel like I'm just trying to jump up a lot and it's not working.
Yeah, it's tough. And I think Spectre Knight's the same way, right? That's the other.
Yeah, I haven't started that one yet.
King Knight, whichever the other one.
No, yeah, it's Spectre.
I didn't even start that one. But I think that, I think that one was just another remix too, which I beat Shovel Knight and I really enjoyed it, just like you said.
Yeah.
And it was really challenging. Like that was one of the more challenging platformers I played in recent years, alongside things like Cuphead and stuff like that. Where like it was pretty tough to get through Shovel Knight. And I don't know if it's just because I had already beaten Shovel Knight, and Plague Knight it didn't keep my interest because it was pretty much the same thing, just with the new moveset that I was kind of hit or miss at times. I never finished Plague Knight either, and that was a while back that
I'm not sure. I'm going to stick with it for at least a bit longer. But I wouldn't say Shovel Knight was like easy, but like I didn't have nearly the amount of difficulty I'm having. I felt like I was always making progress, and when I died, it was like, okay, that felt fair. But now I'm feeling like that sucks.
Yeah, it's like, fun at times trying to do the platforming in it. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, those are the things I wanted to talk about. I've been playing some other stuff too, but
I heard better things about the next Shovel Knight DLCs past Plague Knight, but like I said, Plague Knight.
Okay.
I fell off.
Was that King Knight? Is that the third one?
Did they make two more? Spectre Knight and King Knight?
There's like a battle mode one, and then there's like King, but I think it's like a card game or something. I don't really know how.
Oh, it's a totally different one. Yeah.
Well, it's all in it, yeah, but I haven't.
King of Cups or something like that.
Yeah. Something like that. But I haven't tried.
Is that
it
a Terrence Malick movie? Yeah.
I think it's King of Cards or something like that.
Yeah, that's right.
The King Knight is the son of Daisy and Luigi.
It's
confirmed.
Mona's brother.
Yeah, I'll go next. I've been playing. I played through I Expect You to Die 2.
Nice.
It's the VR game. Shout out to Marlena, who was on as a guest a couple episodes ago, and fucking loved it. It's so good.
Awesome.
It was great. I love escape rooms, and this just excels as a virtual escape the room kind of game.
How is the writing in particular?
The game writing is fun. Will Wheaton does many of the voices.
Oh, really?
Oh, I didn't know that. That's cool.
And there's an opening cinematic that's very like James Bondy. It's very fun.
I heard
very,
the
very,
song.
very cute.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's great.
Yeah.
If you got VR and love escape the room, love puzzle games, then you should definitely pick this up. And then, as I talked about at the top of the episode, I played Outer Wilds, played through it all, but I got to the point, and I rarely have ever done this. I got to a point where I just got lost, and I didn't want to spend 12 hours searching. So I ended up playing the rest of the game with a walkthrough. This is not something typically that I would do, but I've heard such good things about this game. I didn't want to spend the time searching through planets to go place to place. But despite all of that and using a walkthrough through everything from beginning to end, fucking great game. Like incredible writing, just incredible game mechanics, just really fun. And the ending at the game just really caused me to have some existential dread. And just really enjoy it. I watched breakdown videos about how this game really exists in a world where astrophysics and quantum mechanics work really well together. This idea of like quantum entanglement and that everything has mass. It's just crazy. And so I introduced my partner to a breakdown of this game because it was such like an incredible experience at the end, where it's just this game where you experience death over and over again. And it's just like the story of life. Like our sun is going to explode one day and all of we're all going to be dead. But there's beauty.
And the story of like
Impermanence.
and
Yeah.
civilizations, like lost civilizations and like generational like information and education and all this kind of stuff. There's never been a game like it before, which is why I think it's wholly singular and unique. What a crazy game.
Yeah, and despite all of the impermanence, people still go out and search for knowledge and still go out and create music and create songs and write books. There's a very few games that affect me on such a deep, deep level. And Outer Wilds has just caused me just to like talk about this game nonstop. I fucking love this game. It was so good. And I think it comes out on the Switch soon. No release date yet, but
yeah, I think there's like a DLC coming out for the game, and I think that the Switch version will have the DLC and comes out around that time. I'm pretty sure. I think they're like holding it for the DLC. Yeah.
Oh, really? Because
Yeah,
they
I'm
just
pretty
announced
sure.
that not too long ago, too, right? That
Right.
I guess expansion DLC thing. that they're
did
doing.
y'all play Outer Wilds?
I didn't
Yeah,
beat it.
Yeah, I'm like Jeremy. I downloaded it on Game Pass because it's on Game Pass.
Yep.
And I got like a few hours into it, but it's the same thing as you, Matt. Like I got like while I was playing it, I was like totally obsessed and like sucked into the world. And then it's, and then I put it down for a while. And then a game like that is kind of hard to like get back into after you put it down for a while. So it's like something I definitely need to revisit, but I loved it when I played it the first time.
The little nuggets of things that you read that tells you where to go next are so small. There's such little small morsel hints that I don't know how an average gamer plays it and like completes it.
It's kind of like it's like Myst with orbital mechanics.
Yes. Yeah.
Like reminds me very much of Myst in a lot of ways.
It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful game. Life is good. We're all here. Thank you for being here, everyone.
Matt has become 100% hippie after playing Outer Wilds.
Matt. Let's talk.
Let's go.
I'm going to take this opportunity to jump in about the games that I've been playing because I did play the Myst remake and very much enjoyed that a ton. I streamed the Myst remake on Facebook actually because I was streaming on the day that like everybody was off Twitch for some reason. And so I was like, all right, fuck it, I'll stream on Facebook. So if you're interested in watching my playthrough of that, that's on like the Switch Headz Facebook group. It's on my personal Facebook page. You can find that on there.
Did you play the Game Pass version?
I did. I played it on Xbox. So I don't really have a solid VR setup, at least for streaming right now. I have a Quest V1. So it's like I wanted to play the game with like the highest resolution possible and with ray tracing and all that kind of shit. So I ended up playing it on my Xbox on Game Pass. But I loved it. I mean, that game like holds up so well, and I got like so invested in it, and it got me really like sucked into the whole like Myst universe again. And I can't wait until they eventually do Riven, which I know that's been in the works as like a fan project for a while. And then Cyan, the creators of Myst, have since like brought those fan developers on and brought them into Cyan in order to make this Riven remake. So it's like very excited for that to come out eventually. If you've never played Myst before, check out this new version. It's an incredible remake. And it also randomizes the puzzles, which is really cool. Like, so if you've played the game a bunch of times before, the like solutions to the puzzles are slightly randomized at least. So you get it to be a little bit fresh every time.
And it's on VR too. I didn't know that they did like a VR.
Yeah, it's on VR on like PC. And it's you just need a good PC to run it because the game again it like has like fucking ray tracing and all this crazy shit, and it's made in Unreal 4 and all this stuff. But I bet that would be incredible in VR. I wish I had a good VR setup to do that, but I enjoyed playing the 2D version as well. And then just real briefly, I'll talk about some games I've been playing on the Switch. Obviously, WarioWare Get It Together. I did download Sonic Colors.
How is it?
It's okay.
Okay.
Everybody's like, this is one of the best Sonic games, and I'm like, man. That sucks.
Yeah.
It has apparently has really bad performance issues on the Switch too, right?
Well, yeah. Well, the Switch is 30 frames per second, first of all, which is a real bummer because this is a game you want to play in 60 frames per second, right? And then all of the versions have performance issues, but the Switch in particular has some. I know they've been like hard at work at fixing some of like the seizure-inducing bugs that people have been running into on Twitter. But like just beyond all that, like, I mean, this game is like good. It's definitely not bad, but it's also just like not great. You know, like Sonic Generations is great. I fucking love Sonic Generations. I think that's the best 3D Sonic game of all time, personally. And half of it is 2D, right? But it's like, but that game is fantastic. This game, like, is just so frustrating. It like still has all that shit that makes 3D Sonic so frustrating. And I really wanted to give it a shot. And I'm gonna keep playing through it. But I played it some on stream on Twitch. And if you want to just see my raw take on this game, you'll see a lot of me being like, fuck this fucking game. So it's like, so if you want to check that out, there's a VOD of that on Twitch right now. But yeah, so it's, if you're a big hardcore Sonic fan and you played this game on the Wii and you really enjoyed it and you want to replay it, it's definitely worth it. And it's also, again, it's not bad. It's just like, you could have done so much better. There's just something fundamentally wrong at Sonic Team. Anyway.
I don't like the Sonic games where you just are holding the right button the whole time. And I felt like they reminded me a lot of Sonic Forces. I hadn't played Sonic Colors before.
I kind of don't think that that's true, though. Because, like, I feel like there were times in this game where it just grinded to a halt. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where I wanted to keep going right.
Yeah.
But I had to just do, like, really piss poor
Bad
platforming.
Yes,
yeah, it's just
too.
like slow, methodical precision platforming is not Sonic Team's strong suit. So I don't know why they keep having whole levels built around that in this game. And it's just like, man, come on. And so whatever. I'll go back to it. I do enjoy it. Like, I don't want to just shit on it, but it is just like, come on, man. You could do better than this. I really hope the next game is good. My hopes are not high. Anyway, also been playing a lot more Spelunky 2 and Spelunky 1. Just playing Spelunky all the time. It's great. I love it. I'm getting better at the game. I'm getting further than I've ever been before. I want to do a stream pretty soon with Rapatika. We've been playing co-op, and that's been a ton of fun to play co-op online. And then lastly, I do want to give a little bit of a shout out to this game called They Bleed Pixels, which was recently on sale. There it is right there. They Bleed Pixels. This game was recently on sale for like $2 on the eShop, and I played it before on Steam, and it's a really fun, unique game. I mean, it's not like super unique, but it's like, it reminds me of Celeste in a way, where it's like a lot of spikes and it's like a precision platformer. But also in this game, like the thing that makes it unique is that you get to create your own checkpoints as you're going throughout the levels. And you get to decide where the checkpoints are. So that becomes a big part of the gameplay, is like this risk reward of like, oh, I want to get my checkpoint past this area because I know this area is a pain in the ass to deal with. But in order to do that, I'm going to have to kill these 3 guys without taking a death at all, because you can only set the checkpoint when there are no enemies directly around you. So it kind of creates this tension that you don't see in a lot of other platformers. And it's just like a really interesting, unique mechanic there. And I really enjoy this game. It came out on Steam like 10 years ago or something, but it's finally on the Switch and I really enjoyed it. And when I got it, it was $2. And for $2, it's absolutely worth it, especially if you like games like Celeste or, and it's even got some weird battle mechanics in it as well. But Jeremy, what about you? What have you been playing this past week?
I just played through Psychonauts 1 and the VR Psychonauts for the first time, which was something that I've been meaning to do for a very long time. And with Psychonauts coming out over the past like couple weeks, I just kind of wanted to get that done before starting it, which I'm really glad I did. All of those games kind of bleed right into each other. I just started Psychonauts 2. I'm not super far into it, but Psychonauts 1 definitely feels old in a way, but it also definitely holds up in a lot of ways too. The ending of it was super difficult. And it was frustrating at times, just because I think a lot of those older, tougher platforming games can be. But the VR one was really cool too, which I always wanted to play through as well. And that was a pretty good.
What's the VR one? Is it Rhombus of Ruin?
Rhombus of Ruin. Yeah, Rhombus of Ruin. Yeah, and they do a really good job kind of explaining everything at the beginning of Psychonauts 2, so don't feel like you need to play that to go play Psychonauts 2 or anything. They definitely do a fantastic job of kind of like wrapping everything up, and I'm really enjoying that so far. Highly recommend that, especially on Game Pass. Also, we are recording this earlier in the week, and like 2 hours from now, I'm going to be playing Deathloop quite a bit, which I'm really excited for. Looking very forward to booting that up. It looks incredible.
I've been hearing great things about that game, man. I hear it's fantastic.
It's reviewing super well.
Yep, exactly. And then, I'm looking super, super forward to it. I also think that there's going to be like a new Halo Infinite flight over the next couple weeks, which I'm looking really forward to.
Can't wait.
I can't wait to play
24th or 28th or something.
Yeah, I think that's
a Friday.
over like 2 weeks away.
24th.
This is now the games we're going to be playing.
And then like
Breath of the Wild 2.
Yeah, exactly.
Splatoon 2.
I'll be playing on my
Call of Duty
PS8.
Vanguard. Xbox Series Z. Yeah, and then just like typical Rust and Apex Legends games that I just love to play, even though in a masochistic way, you know.
Yeah.
I don't really like those games. I just feel like I have to do it sometimes.
Okay. Sometimes we flagellate ourselves
Yep.
for the good of mankind.
Me over here trying to beat Metopia, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh boy. All right. Well, I think that does it for this episode then. Thank you so much, Jeremy, for coming on and joining us.
Thanks again, Switch Heads, as always. Always a pleasure.
Thanks to MilkyWay.co for doing our website. Thanks to Corduroy for doing our music. If you're looking for me, Patrick, online, I am PDYX.
Hey, I'm Matthew on Twitter, MATHYOU.
I'm pretty much everywhere on the internet at Monolith Fiji. And what about you, Jeremy? Where can people find you online?
Hey, I'm at Poop Stump. Some places. POOPSHTUMP.
That's right.
Stump.
That's
All
right.
one word, yeah.
You can catch
Some
Jeremy
places.
in the Discord. You can catch him taking his dog to some obedience classes. And
Damn.
I'm just fucking around. No, and of course, if you'd like to find out, sorry, Jeremy, I had to.
That's
Your
my
dog
bad.
chewed
That's
my
bad.
thumbstick
That's
on my
it's
pro
very-
controller.
It's very fair.
So I
It's
gotta
very
give
fair.
him some fucking shit. Okay.
That's my bad. That's my bad.
No, it's not your bad. It's not your bad. It's God's bad for creating dogs. Anyway, if you'd like to find our show on
This is a
social
God
media,
podcast now.
yeah, that's right. This is a Christian God podcast. If you'd like to find our show on social media, we are at Super Switch Headz on Instagram and Facebook. We are at Switch Headz on Twitter. Then, of course, we got our Discord, which is awesome. We always got to give them a shout out. Join our Discord and our Facebook group. We'll have links to both of those in the description of this video or audio podcast. Thanks again to Jeremy for being on. This has been our show about WarioWare Get It Together. What a fun game. What a delightful romp into the minds of some truly psychotic Japanese game developers. We're going to be back next week with a great episode and a very special guest for you. Unless a fucking direct drops, in which case we'll be covering that. Time will surely tell, won't it, folks? But other than that, let's be safe out there. Let's keep, maybe keep wearing your masks if you're inside. Do
That's a
you,
good idea.
but, let's try to be safe out there. Make sure you get the shot. Let's do our best to protect all of humanity. Let's nip this fucking thing in the bud. All right, let's get this thing over with. I'm over it. We love you guys very much. We'll see you next week. Season 4, baby. We're going. Bye-bye.